Barker podcast. This was episode 29, Rare Stories Part 3. So here we talked about the rare stories like from the Jump Tribe toys, from the Infernal Parade toys, Haekel's Tale, which was later adapted to a Masters of Horror movie, and the ongoing story on DeviantArt. So anyway, this was a lot of fun. This is a shorter episode than most of ours. This was kind of a leftover thing that we wanted to do in 2012, but we didn't have time to get to it. So we wanted to finish off that series of rare stories. So that's what this is. Our next episode is going to be 2012 in review. We would have liked to have done that as our first episode for the year, but that's okay. So anyway, enjoy. I'm Raen.
Hey, and I'm Jose. How are you guys doing?
First we'll do, we brought back the Occupy Midian report by Crystal Raen, so here that is.
I hope everyone is having a wonderful 2013 thus far. The Occupy Midian movement has reached another huge milestone on the petition. We surpassed 10,000 signatures and are over 12,000 at the time of this recording. It took a little less than 10 months to reach this goal, which means we got over 1,000 signatures a month since the petition went up after last March's Mad Monster Party in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are very hopeful that this will help to further open the door to the release of Nightbreed the Cabal cut on Blu-ray. In the past 10 months, we've had a lot of great things happen, including over 20 screenings of the Cabal cut worldwide. In addition to that, there has been quite a bit of press, both online and in print, about Occupy Midian and the Cabal cut. For a list of the online mentions, visit scoop.it/bring-back-Nightbreed. But keep in mind that this list is not 100% complete, as there are new mentions nearly every day. But I try to keep it updated as often as possible for the Occupy Midian members. Nightbreed the Cabal cut even made it onto the cover of Rue Morgue's December issue, which included a new interview with Clive Barker, Simon Bamford, Nicholas Berman-Vince, Hugh Ross, Russell Charrington, and Mark Miller. This is a huge step in the right direction for this film. And as always, there is some great conversation and sharing about Nightbreed going around on the Occupy Midian Facebook page. Recently, DJ Badley shared some behind-the-scenes photos of himself and other Breed characters. Also, if you're on Facebook, be sure to go like Clive Barker's author page as he shares interesting items relating to himself and his work, including some Nightbreed-related images and thoughts shared on his page. Just a few days ago, Clive shared a photo of a Nightbreed poster from Ghana. Occupy Midian has big hopes for 2013, considering how far we've come in the past year. Hopefully, after 23 years of an incomplete film, the true story behind Nightbreed will finally come to light in a much larger way than it already has.
So that was really cool news. I think especially the 10,000 signatures. Oh
yeah,
and it's now up to 12 something.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a amazing night when. Apparently, Clive Barker's official Facebook page shared the link to the petition, and also Alex Gaspro, who was who handles Clive's social media. He also tweeted to Neil Gaiman if he could share the petition link, and also Neil Gaiman also shared the petition link again, which he already had done a few months ago, if you recall that. And all of a sudden, we started getting bumps in the petition, and we got 3,000 signatures in 2 days or something.
And several hundred more people on the Facebook page that we added. I don't even know how many that was, but yeah.
Now we're at 6,500, I think, at the Facebook group,
and over 12,000 signatures on the petition.
Yeah, that really makes me happy. That really makes me happy because I remember the exact moment when we didn't have any signatures in the petition. We were just okay, click the button, publish, and all of a sudden I was going to sign the petition. And all of a sudden, there were already people who had signed the petition before me.
When we talked about it, and then you set up, and by the time I turned my computer on and went over to sign it, I was number 40 or something like that.
and I was like number 10 or 12 or something. I was like, because I immediately, as soon as the petition was up, it was immediately shared on Facebook. And because it was shared on Facebook, all the friends that we have on Facebook, they all immediately see it. And of course, people, just to show how many people out there really love this movie, they wouldn't hesitate. In a few minutes, it already had like 10 signatures. So that's how many people, love the movie. Yeah. Immediately they popped at it and just started signing it
over
immediately.
Time, there have been spikes in the number of signatures, huge amounts, 500, 1,000. But this might be the biggest spike we've had in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. Do you remember when we were trying to get, was it 5,000 or something?
Yep.
And we were trying to get that by Halloween 2012, I think. And there were people who pledged that they would shave their hair off if they couldn't get...
Yep, and Colin and Christine Twitter blitzed the everybody about Occupy Midian and the petition.
And Jonathan McAvoy too.
And yep, and we hit 5,000 signatures, and at that point, we had remembered that Russell said 5,000 gets their attention, and 10,000, I can't remember what it was exactly.
Shows that it makes financial sense.
So we adjusted the goal forward to 10,000 signatures, and that bummed some people out. At the time, we were just thinking, okay, great, we hit 5,000, now let's try for 10,000. But there were some people that, I think that they looked at it kind of more simply, like, once we hit 5,000 signatures goal, then the DVD is going to be made. And so when we adjusted the goal up to 10,000, it bummed some people out because they thought, hey, we did it, now we're going to get the movie. And, it's not quite that simple, but,
Yeah. It's an ongoing process of negotiation.
We wanted a really strong petition, so we adjusted the goal up so that we could get more people to keep on signing it, and it's not.
It was just amazing. I mean, I'm just so happy about it, and also, of course, the article from Rue Morgue that also helped a lot, and
and it's a great article, really, really well researched and thought out.
It's a fantastic article, yeah. And what else? There's a new screening, right, in 2013. Yeah. There's going to be the first screening.
February 22nd.
In Cumbria. Yeah, it's going to take place in England, in Cumbria. It's, let me see if I can get this straight. It's the Keswick Film Festival, Theater by the Lake, in Lake Road, Keswick, Cumbria. Yep. So, that's going to be Friday, the 22nd of February. So, hey, first screening of 2013. Yeah. Apparently, Russell is willing to keep on doing screenings. I know that we had mentioned before from the information that we had gotten that we assumed that 2013 would be a year where the screenings would stop in January and then they would start the restoration process. Yeah. But apparently, Russell is still willing to go and do these screenings, especially because this one is in Cumbria, which is, I think, close to where he lives.
We probably won't see the world coverage that we saw last year. I'm sure that, but who knows? I mean, we're not, we aren't as much in the loop on those. It's just we report it as soon as we find out about it.
Exactly.
And there one other thing. Michael Plumides from Morgan Creek put a teaser on the Occupy Midian Facebook page having to do with the Nightbreed TV show.
Apparently that's what we're assuming. Yeah. There's no confirmation yet, right. But he put this figure, this picture, which is a vice, I guess. That's how I can describe it.
It kind of looks like the Greatest American Hero logo, from his shirt. Yeah. But it's a vice instead of that symbol thing.
Yeah. Or one of those old Nazi flags with a swastika, except instead of a swastika, it's a black and white vice. And it just says, "He is coming." Can any of you guess what this is? And... So and I was posting some comments, and I said because nobody was understanding exactly what this meant, and all of a sudden I said, "Oh yeah, this is funny." Someone asked, "Is it the greatest American faucet?"
Yeah, this black
because
and
it
white
looks
image,
like a
it's got
faucet.
a little twisty handle on the top, for opening and closing device, and it kind of does look like a faucet too.
And then apparently I said something like, well, it looks to me like it has some similarity with the neo-Nazi style of flag. But and then Michael Plummetis replied, a Nazi in Nightbreed, which implies, of course, this is something that has to do with Nightbreed. And sure, I mean, this is public knowledge. Michael Plummetis is a author, screenwriter, producer, analyst, and consultant for Morgan Creek Productions. Yeah. And if you look him up on his, resume, which is online, it says that he's currently developing concepts for the Nightbreed TV series for Morgan Creek, which means Morgan Creek is trying to get this off the ground.
Well, obviously we don't want to jinx it. These things are tentative. We had whole episodes about projects of Clive Barker's that never made it anywhere. And we don't want this one to get added to the list. Obviously, we really want to see this.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when, I think it was this year, 2012, that it came out, that story that Sonar Entertainment was going to do some Hellraiser TV show.
Yeah, and they had the remote control with the pins in it. Yeah,
and then we never heard anything from it back again, so I don't know what point that stands in. But anyway, it's great that if they are going to do something about Nightbreed, now is the time, because now is the time when the movie is being restored. Now the Cabal cut is being made. There's going to be a director's cut, probably on Blu-ray, and maybe even with a HD transfer of the theatrical edition, I'm guessing. So it's a perfect time if you guys want to, relaunch Nightbreed to a broader audience. This is the time to do it.
Well, and we've got 12,000 signatures that say that people want Nightbreed, so I think that speaks well for this upcoming TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. And then should we go on to Clive Barker news? Yeah, there's not a whole lot. One nice thing since Alex has been helping Clive Barker with his social media. Before he was only doing Twitter, but now he has a Facebook page and he's on DeviantArt. And so Clive Barker's done 2 Facebook Q&As. One of them was in January and the other was November, right? The first one was in November?
Yeah, I think so.
So they were really good. It's hard to sort through all those questions because the way they do it is you just post them on Clive Barker's wall. And so you'll see 15, 20 questions that don't get answered for every one that does, just because they come so fast, and he takes about an hour to answer as many of them as he can.
Maybe Facebook is not the best platform to do this kind of Q&A, but hey, it's the best one so far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in any platform, there's going to be probably that same ratio of questions that don't get answered. I mean, and some of them were like, what color shoes am I wearing? Or, just stupid stuff that people just,
Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Yeah. I mean, it's like there's a lot of people out there that just want everybody to see them more than they want to ask a serious question.
Well, one of the reasons why I say that it's not a very good platform is because if it's a personal profile with a wall, then, of course, you can post on it and you can see it on the wall. But when it's a page, a Facebook page for an author, you get the wall is the posts from Clive Barker, and then there's a smaller box that, pretty much gathers up all of the other people's posts on their wall. Yeah, and you can
only see like 3 or 4 at a time, and you have to keep on hitting the see older posts or and they set this last one up as an event, which I thought, okay, then they're going to paste the questions in the event section from the people who said yes, I'll be there, but they didn't really do it that way.
Yeah,
that
I
might be
guess,
one way to try for next time and see if that works better. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the event page actually would be a great place to post the questions.
Yeah. And then you would only get
because,
people who actually said, yes, I'm going to be there, instead of the people who just sort of, wandered in.
Hey, we can suggest that to Alex for next one.
And
okay.
Yeah, Alex, if you're listening, maybe give that a try. I don't know. The other thing Alex has been teasing, well, Clive Barker, probably through Alex, has been teasing a Clive Barker store. And that, I'm speechless. I guess. I'm really, really excited about that.
Well, you already can buy some stuff from Clive Barker through the Seraphim Film store, which has actually some pretty good stuff there, like signed edition of the Books of Blood.
Oh yeah, those white ones that have the bloody guy.
Yeah, the stealth press ones, and they're signed, and they're like $70. And if you go on eBay, there are people selling those like $150.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can buy it straight from Clive for $70. People, you don't have to,
and Clive will
pay some speculative eBay
in convention appearances. Clive has had stacks of those to sell, autographed.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah. I mean, it was meant to be an edition that you could just buy at stores, but the company went out of business right after they made them, and they were about to get destroyed. And Clive Barker said, "No, bring them to me. I'll take them." So the company delivered them to his house, but they just dumped the pallets of them right in the street. And if you've been on one of those streets in Beverly Hills, up in the hills where those houses are, there's barely enough room for one, maybe 1.5 cars. Like, you have to pull over if somebody's passing you. So imagine all of these.
Oh God, yeah. I saw it on Google Earth.
Yeah, imagine all of these pallets like piled up in the middle of the street. So Mark and people who worked for Clive had to rush to get all of those into the house. Because it was blocking traffic and stuff.
That is very surprising to me, because I always had a very good impression about Stealth Press, that they made really, really luxury editions.
Yeah. Well, it is a nice book. I don't know why, all of a sudden, that happened, but
yeah. But anyway, the fact is that there's going to be a Clive Barker store, which is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. So all kinds. I can't wait to buy more T-shirts. I was writing on the comment thread there that the last time I saw Clive, I was wearing my T-shirt with the Dragon Man from Abarat 2, and he was making fun of my shirt because it was so worn out. Because I wear it a lot, and he's like, "Hey, how many times have you washed this shirt?" I said, "I don't know. I don't count." He kept on saying, "No, seriously, how many times has that been through the wash?" Like, I really can't.
Next time you should. Put on that tie that has the skulls.
Yeah, I'll wear that sometimes. When there's an occasion that I have to wear a tie. Actually, that got a stain on it. I was pretty sad.
Oh, that sucks. But but this store, do you think it's going to have any T-shirts? I just saw the picture, and I was like, well, it says here art, apparel, books, and toys.
Yeah.
So the first official Clive Barker store, from the genius behind Hellraiser, Nightbreed, Candyman, The Thief of Always, and Abarat, comes the first official Clive Barker store. So it says coming soon, and then there's a link for www.realclivebarker.com. I was kind of surprised about this website because right now it's still not up 100%. It's still being developed, because if you go there, all you get is a box from WordPress, I think, saying the site is down for maintenance. Please check back soon. Username, password, remember me.
Geez.
Which is, I guess, an admin login. And I was wondering, why didn't he just use clivebarker.com? And then I remembered that clivebarker.com still exists.
Yeah, and it's owned by that Lost Souls website.
Yeah, it's owned by that Lost Souls website, which actually I'm surprised that it's still up, because
it hasn't been updated since like 06 or something like that.
Yeah, and I would imagine that he could probably get in touch with the people there and get that website. Yeah. But then that would probably mean that they would have to restructure the whole website, maybe remove all the stuff that it has here. And there's a lot of cool stuff still on the CliveBarker.com website. I mean, there's a lot of paintings, drawings from Clive Barker. There's the Lost Souls story. Yeah. That's pretty much the only place where you can read it on the internet. Well, not the only place, but, you know. So it's got all the confessions page and, you know. So I guess it would have to, like, destroy all of this and create a new website, and that would make a lot of people sad.
I thought that was the official Clive Barker website.
No, the official Clive Barker website is Revelations.
I know, but I thought that was the official Clive Barker website before Revelations.
It was.
Yeah, so why did they, I don't understand. If that was the official website, why didn't that domain name fall?
I don't know. There might have been some, there might have been some issue. I'm not going to get into that. I think this used to be maintained by a guy called Barnabas or something like that, which was the webmaster for CliveBarker.com. Yeah. I don't know. I just remember that it would get sometimes updated with news, but it would get updated very, very randomly. Yeah. And then all of a sudden one day they just said, hey, the official website is clivebarker.info, which at the time was not that. It was something else. It was like Clive Barker Revelations /Pipex or something. I don't remember, but I used to type that all the time because I used to go there a lot. Check on Phil and Sarah Stokes' website. But
I never even knew about
this
it
website,
until I started wondering why this website was never getting updated, because that was where I went for my Clive Barker news, and it's like, man, I haven't seen anything new on this thing in like a year. And then somehow I found that other one.
Okay, I think I knew about Revelations around the same time that I also checked out CliveBarker.com. I think that also existed at the same time.
I didn't.
But like I said, it was not CliveBarker.info at the time. It was something like some English, co.uk, Pipex, something, I don't know.
But it was it was Phil and Sarah. And it apparently went concurrently with CliveBarker.com, which I didn't know. I thought that it just took over for that one.
So anyway, nowadays Clive Barker uses the handle Real Clive Barker, so that's the website that they're trying to set up for the store, like I guess. That's realclivebarker.com. Yeah, like the real Ghostbusters, as opposed to the Ghostbusters that had like a monkey.
Yeah,
you remember that? That was like a
that
cartoon
came out first before they could make a cartoon based on the movies.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess that's what else do we have on the news?
That's really about it that I have. So if you don't have anything else, we can go on to the main topic.
Sure, let's go to the main topic. Just a quick mention that about the Q&A that was set up on Facebook. Revelations also took a few quotes from the Q&A, and they put it on the website. So if you guys go to Revelations, clivebarker.info, you can check out some of the some quotes from the Q&A.
And I think they were looking for things that were hints about upcoming projects like Aberrat 4 and stuff like that.
Yeah, and also another bit of news is that Paul Miller of Earthling Press. I got an email a while ago saying that. I got an email from Paul Miller of Earthling Publications. I think that Weaveworld is shipping now. I think
I've heard that.
I'm just trying to find the email. I'm sorry, because I was trying to find the email. But I think the last email that I read from Paul Miller was that Weaveworld is shipping now. So that's, here it is. From January 3rd, I got this email saying, after 2 delays at the printer, then a holiday-related shutdown at the shipper that was not communicated to me, I'm thrilled to announce that Weaveworld was published late last month and is now shipping.
Yeah.
I aim to have all copies of the gift edition in the mail no later than next week. The numbered edition will be ready this spring after tray cases are built around the finished books. Thanks for your enthusiasm and patience for this title. And it's from Paul Miller, publisher of Earthling Press.
I think he had meant for that to come out like around Halloween originally.
Yeah.
And I haven't. I've ordered that too. Has So if they're shipping now, to our listeners out there, has anyone received theirs yet? I haven't.
Yeah, it was. I got this 10 days ago, so I'm sure some people must have it.
Yeah, if you have, let us know. Post on the website or Facebook. We'd be interested. And
this will be the gift edition that's been being shipped by no later than the January 10. And then the numbered edition will only be ready this spring after tray cases are built. So it's still going to take a while for people, I guess, like you. Did you get the numbered edition?
There was like a $40 one and $100 and some dollar one, and then like the $1,000 one, I think. I think I got the $40 one.
Okay. I'm looking at it. It's like I'm looking at the website, and the cover looks beautiful, by the way. The 25th anniversary edition of Weave World. The gift edition that's shipping now, it's cloth bound and unsigned. And then there's the numbered edition, which is hand numbered 1 to 350, signed by Clive Barker. And then the lettered edition, of course, is just 15 copies from A to O, so it's not the full alphabet even. And it's signed by Richard Kirk and Clive Barker. It's made entirely by hand using the finest materials, and
Well, and Clive Barker
I need to get
a picture of one on the Facebook page a few weeks back.
Oh, of the lettered edition?
I don't know which edition it was. I think it might have been the cheaper one.
Okay, all right, yeah, because the lettered edition probably hasn't been finished yet. But yeah, I have to buy a copy of this. I'll get the gift edition, $45. Yeah. It's still available. All editions are still available here on the website for earthlingpub.com.
And my thinking was, I have a first edition autographed hardcover already. So, I'm really interested in this edition, but I didn't want to go nuts, buying a super fancy one.
Yeah, the numbered edition is $250 and the lettered edition is $1,500. Yeah. But it's beautiful aesthetically, of course. As in regards to what's going to be worth in a few years, that depends a lot. But of course, the first edition, first printing of the actual book is always going to be much more valuable.
Yep.
All right, that's it for news.
So, Rare Stories Part 3. We're up to. Our first one is in the year 2004, as a follow-up to Tortured Souls figures that he did with Todd McFarlane. There was Tortured Souls 1 and 2. They decided to do sort of a circus-themed set of figures, Infernal Parade, they're called, in 2004, and unlike the Tortured Souls figures that had a contiguous story that went from one figure to the next that you kind of would put together. These, Clive Barker wrote the bios for each of these figures.
Yeah. In fact, if you go to the Revelations website, he explains that instead of talking about a place like Primordium, which he did for the Tortured Souls one, he said that he was going to talk about who they are, who the characters are, and so that's what he did. He wrote a bio for each of the characters, starting with Tom Requiem, who's the showman of the Infernal Parade, I guess. Yeah. And then there's Bethany Bled, Mary Slaughter, the Golem Elijah. Which reminds me kind of the Mongroid or something. I don't know. It's and then there's Family of Freaks and the Sabbaticus, which is this kind of. I'm guessing that I don't know much about the Infernal Parade because I don't own them. Either. But the Sabbaticus, is it like the horn beast that you can see?
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know these very well. I mean, it was another one of those things where I just didn't have a place in my house for these things, so I didn't buy them.
Yeah. Well, if you go to the spawn.com, which is the website that belongs, of course, to McFarlane Toys, you can look for Clive Barker's Infernal Parade, and you can actually see photos, storyline for some of these characters. Of course, not the full bio that you have to buy them. And you can also see pictures and a virtual reality QuickTime widget thing for each one. So, then the Sabbaticus is this creature that, and it says here, it's Sabbaticus and Healer. And, for example, it says here that the Sabbaticus was a monster that kills children, I think. And part of the story says, 2 nights later, 7 more children were slaughtered, this time all from different families in the streets of a well-heeled district occupied by merchants and their families. The deaths resembled in every way the deaths of 3 children murdered in the orchard. The same brutal unknitting of the bodies, the same removing of the brains, and the inn-yards left trailing. And then it says, this time, however, the miscreant was glimpsed as it shambled away from the scene of its depravities. It was not human. A giant reptilian beast that had apparently come into the city from the wilderness. So that's the creature that the citizens of Karantika, which I'm guessing is the city in this story, knew by name as Sabbaticus. So that's the Sabbaticus. It's kind of like a beast from the Testaments of Jedediah, the great religious book which the priests went to when they were seeking guidance as to how a certain miscreant needed to be judged. It fed on the thoughts of children and on the despair of their parents. Wow, Clive, you really went to town on this one.
Yeah, almost a Rawhead Rex type of a thing.
Yeah, that's exactly, the pretty good comparison there. And then there's like the Golem Elijah, which is this guy that's stuck in kind of a hamster wheel, I guess. Yeah. That's what it looks like. And then it's got some story here as well. It says that he's actually a golem. He really is a golem made out of mud, I think. It says here, it was hard labor making enough mud to shape a full-sized man there in the ground, but Lewis was the equal of the task. He worked through the high heat of the day and into the cool of the evening. Then he lit a fire close by the place where the golem lay, and he continued to work by the light of the flickering flames. The heat of the fire began to dry the creature as he worked. Bitter steam rose from its form, stinging Lewis's eyes. He let his tears run down his cheeks and add their little sum of fluid to the sweat and spit that were already part of the golem stuff. So I'm guessing this is how he gets alive. So it says he recites the words of life that Nefer the Armless had taught him, and as he did so, inscribed the name of the Creator on the brow of the creature. As he did so, the first indication that the work he'd done would bear fruit, as the letters of the Creator's name sank into the flesh of the creature and became invisible to the naked eye. So that's how the Golem Elijah came to be.
Then when the words were said and the letters were written, he sat down in the dirt and allowed fatigue to overtake him. His eyes closed for what seemed like just a few moments as he drifted off into sleep. When he woke, he knew an hour or more must have passed, however. The fire had burned much lower, and the night sky was a starless black above. He turned to admire his golem, but it had gone.
Yeah, it's kind of, it reminds me of like the Frankenstein story, where Frankenstein goes to sleep after he brings life to the monster, and he's like so depressed. It's like, I created a monster. And then he turns around and goes to sleep. When he wakes up, the monster is on his way out, like with wearing like a cloak, and he just sees the monster like sneak away from the door into the world. So that kind of reminds me of that. As for Family of Freaks, I don't really remember this one much, but it says here that apparently it says here that Dr. Feder. All right, it says here, once he had a description of the vehicle the freaks were driving, Dietrich simply used his contacts in the police department to have it traced. 2 days later, in the early evening, he arrived at a small motel far to the north of the city, where he observed Feder's freaks coming and going from room 7. Of their abductor, there was no sign. Dietrich didn't make his presence known. He simply called Dr. Feder, who arrived some hours later in a scruffy motor truck. Only then did he show himself. Didn't I tell you I'd find them for you? He said, standing at the door of the single room where all the freaks had been living together. It stank of rotted food, of excrement, but most of all of the bodies of the freaks themselves, which seemed to give off a particularly pungent sweat. You did indeed, said Dr. Feder. Good job, good job. He reached into his jacket and took out a strangely decorated wallet. You're the one who turned us in, said one of the two heads that sprouted from the neck of the larger of the freaks, said the other head. I didn't turn you in, Dietrich said. I saved you. "From what?" said a thing no bigger than a fetus that lay on pillows at the head of the bed. "We ran away from that son of a bitch fetter."
Mm.
So apparently, those are fetters freaks.
Yeah, and these are story excerpts, so we're we don't have the full stories.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, the only way to get those is by buying these.
Yeah. So there's still like Bethany Bled and Mary Slaughter, and of course they're very attractive, sexy female characters. And Bethany Bled actually reminds me a little bit of Lucy Deak, except of course she's human. She doesn't have that monstrous look. But, apparently, she was pursued by witch hunters, and she has some powers, I guess. Yeah. She was accused of diabolical works, and they put her on the rack, and So but then she escaped, of course, and I guess she joined the Infernal Parade. So that was it. And Mary Slaughter, who is this character that shows up in she's like a sword swallower, like a what do you call it? Those guys who stick needles in their fakir or something like that. So and that's also a pretty cool character. It's typical sideshow character, and she's a performance artist, I guess, and she does those things, those tricks. She uses swords for her act, and so those are pretty cool.
Tom
those are
Requiem
pretty cool.
is a pretty evil looking clown. It says King of All Showmen.
Yeah. You know what? He reminds me of this character from the Image called Chapel. I don't know if that is intentional or not, but for Spawn, there was a character in one of the stories, and also I think he belonged to Rob Liefeld's Young Blood or something. I think it was Chapel. It's just very, very similar to this character. Also has like a white death mask, grease paint face, and is like a black dude, and but this one is also, he looks pretty fierce. Fierce.
Yep.
So it's a cool little group of characters that he created. Didn't Clive Barker at one point design a carnival ride or something? Not for the Infernal Parade, but for some kind of like a haunted house.
Oh, that could be. I don't know.
I think I remember him doing something like that years before the Infernal Parade, creating a Clive Barker haunted house or haunted ride. So I was just saying that because this is what it reminds me of.
Yeah, well, and we know he's fascinated with the circus. I mean, if you look at Maximilian Bacchus. Yeah. So our next one in 2005 is Jump Tribe. So if you're not familiar with these, we talked a little bit about them when we talked about toys, but Jump Tribe, there was initially a prototype that was sold at Comic-Con, Yabu, and then and the company that produced these is called Art Asylum, and they made 4 more. So Yabu with wings, Bilam, Twath, and Kungunda. And those, they were meant to be sold sort of widespread, but for something happened. We don't really know exactly what happened, but they're very, very rare. They appeared on people's websites and then disappeared. Even Art Asylum has no mention of them on their website anywhere.
That is so strange. Yeah.
And so if you ever find them on eBay or whatever, like I had an eBay search set up for 2 years before they finally showed up at a store in Scotland, I think it was.
Wow. I mean, I think I've seen them pretty regularly on eBay, but I haven't really bought any of those yet.
Well, they're more common right now, and I have no idea why, but for the past 2 years they weren't. I mean, you can get Comic-Con Yabu really easily for like $10.
Mm-hmm. Is that the one with the wings?
No, that's before he had his wings. That one. But then the rest of them, the ones that actually come in the Art Asylum boxes that have the windows, those have been really rare. One of them I got in a bidding war over, and I bought it for $200 and some.
Oh,
yeah, and the lady who sold it told me that I asked her where she found it, and she said it was at like some kind of a Salvation Army type of a junk shop or something. And she bought it for her kids, and her kid was like, "What is this? I don't even know what this is from." And so she put it back for sale on eBay, and she was shocked that people wanted it so badly.
I guess the kid was like, "Where's my Pokemon?"
Yeah, exactly. It was something like that. Yeah. So, but then then the other three, that store showed up that had like 10 sets of them, and you could buy entire sets of the 4, minus the one, the Comic-Con Yabu, which is really easy to buy anyway. But
I guess someone must have found like a whole warehouse of those.
I guess. I don't know what happened. I mean, and Sicko Films, I met her at Texas Frightmare Weekend, and she had the complete set, and the way she got them was searching the internet, and she found a Japanese website that advertised them for sale. And, she said, "Okay, how much are these?" And they said, "Well, how much money do you want to pay for them?" And that went back and forth like that for quite a while before she finally got them to sell them to her.
Well, I hope that those aren't like Chinese knockoffs.
No, I've seen them. I mean, she brought them with her to that signing, and she held them in her arms when during the thing where you get your picture taken with Clive. So they're just like the ones that I have. I mean, and she had the books and everything. So yeah.
All right. By the way, I'm not trying to change the topic, but I found out what was the name of that Clive Barker ride that was created for. It was for Universal Studios. It was called Freaks.
Oh, okay.
It was part of the Halloween Horror Nights, I think.
I wonder if it's still there, or if they just
it was called
dismantled
Freaks
it after that
with a Z at the end. I think it's been discontinued since then.
Okay. So each one of these Jump Tribe comes with a book. The first one comes with Yabu, both versions of Yabu. There's the Yabu that's from Comic-Con, and then the Yabu with wings that's the fuzzier one. They both have the same book, but in that one, Yabu, Billum, and Twath are friends, and they always meet on Mizini Street, and they find a hole. It's like a portal that's lying on the ground, and you could pick it up and throw it around, and Yabu ends up going in the hole by mistake, and when he comes back out, he flies out and he's got wings. And they said, "How'd you get wings?" And he said, "Well, basically, I was the Jump Tribe taught me magic." So he had been in there for weeks, but in his world, it was only just a few seconds.
So the Jump Tribe is the people who live on the other side of the hole?
The holes go to random places. So the Jump Tribe are just anyone that likes to use these holes. They're called Zeliquars, to jump between worlds and look for adventures. So these stories are for kids, and even more so than like Aberrad or The Thief of Always. A younger audience than those.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like classic Clive with the whole portals and magic and stuff.
So then Kunguna
for a minute there, I thought you were going to say that Yabu went into the portal, and he ended up in a Chinese packaging store where he got put into a box and sold.
Right. So then Kunguna jumped out of the hole and said, "Where's Yabu?" And he said, "You better tell me where he is." And they didn't tell him where he was, and he marked the spot with a piece of chalk on the ground, and he said, "This is so I can always come back to this spot." So he was mad at Yabu, and we don't really find out why. The next story is Billum. So Yabu was kind of an elephant-looking guy, but he had wings. And Billum is he looks like a spiral, and he travels by rolling around on the ground, and he can puff himself up to like 4 times his size, and he's got poisonous quills. So one of the opening lines of this book is kind of cool. It says, Billum landed softly on a bank of tall blue grass filled with donkey-headed flowers.
Donkey-headed flowers. Okay.
So I love the way in these things that Clive's imagination just kind of goes crazy. So Billum basically lands on it in a tree. Or no, that's a different one. I'm sorry. Billum lands on this world, and he was chasing after Yabu with Twath, but they went to a whole different world than where Yabu went. And then they got separated. So Billum is traveling, and he runs into this traveling poet, and the poet asks him if he's going to see the prisoner, and he says, "No, I'm just looking for my friend." So he ends up going to find the prisoner.
So this poet is a human.
What's that?
So this poet that he meets, is it a human?
But when he goes to Lady Zoxy's mansion, and that's where the prisoner is. And General Nub Nub is the one who caught him by fishing. Basically, by fishing in people's dreams, he was able to catch a human. And the prisoner, he's like a 7-year-old kid, and his name is Shane. And they're all talking about, hey, we should make jump portals to this human world and just eat all the people there.
Oh my gosh.
So Billum gets angry, and he puffs himself up and rolls over to the prisoner and says, hey, let's get out of here. And so they escape together.
You know, what this reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of, the names and all that kind of remind me a little bit. And Fishing for Humans in like a Dream Sea or something. It kind of reminds me of Quiddity, like the Jump Tribe would be like creatures that live like in the ephemeras. That would be really cool if you could,
I think
put all of it in like an expanded Clive Barker universe thing.
And the idea that all of these worlds exist because people dreamed them.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea.
The next one is Twath, and he's kind of a cat-looking guy. He falls through the jump hole, the Zeliquar, and he ends up in a tree. And there's these three monsters beneath him: Cuddle Rat, Quathak, and Yum. And they look up and they say, "Hey, I want to eat him. Let's climb up the tree and get him." But before they can do that, he falls out of the tree and breaks all these branches and lands on top of them. And all these people come out and are cheering because these creatures had been preying on their town for months, and so they put them in jail. And then Kungu Na, he's the only one of these creatures of the ones that is a villain. And his story isn't really contiguous with the rest of them. The story in his book is just about how people aren't born evil, that circumstances make them that way, and it explains the backstory of Kungu Na and how he was the 9th son, and his parents really, really wanted a daughter. So Kungu means invisible in their language, and so Kungu Na was completely ignored by his parents. So he started stealing, and every time he would get in trouble, they would say, "Why are you bringing me here? I don't have any son named Kungu Na." So they just ignored him. He kept on stealing. He eventually used his money that he made from stealing to start a business selling umbrellas because it rained all the time. In their world, they live on Takathika in the city of Paifat. And there it rains all the time, and a lot of the population are nuns who like to collect toy animals.
Oh my God!
So
wow, that just keeps getting better and better.
So he's built up this prosperous business, and he's gotten married, and he's had a bunch of kids, and one day his accountant comes in and says, "Hey, according to the weather report, it's going to stop raining." And he's like, "Okay, well, why are you telling me that?" He said, I mean permanently, like for 19 years, it's going to stop raining. So the nuns all moved away because they like the rain. They say it's good for their skin. So he's got nobody to sell his stuff to, and one of their primary things that they sell is umbrellas. So they're going to go out of business.
So there goes the business.
So Kunguna wants to teleport himself back to his island where he stored all of his stolen goods. So he gets a piece of chalk, and he draws a Zeliquar, and he goes over to his city, and he grabs bags of his money that he intends to bring back and live off of the money that he stole instead of his business that's gone. So the problem is that he's got these two huge bags of gold, and being weighed down by the bags of gold means that he can't go back to the place that he started from. So normally, I guess you can, if you know where you want to go, you can kind of guide it using your mind. But he's weighed down, and the winds from the Zeliquar blow him into all these different places, and so he's traveled like 30-some times, and he's never been able to get back to the city of Pyfat.
So he gets lost?
And there's one point where he lands, and there's these humhogs are marching over a bridge, and he's hiding under the bridge with this lady, and the lady says, I used to eat humhogs, and now all of a sudden they've taken over this world. And right now this is a procession to coronate their king. And she says, why don't you give me some, it sounds like you're weighed down. And he told her his story, and she says, it sounds like you're weighed down by this money. Why don't you give it to me? And because the humhogs are catching them under the bridge, and they're about to kill them with spears or something. And she says, why don't you give me your money? I can bribe the humhogs, and then you'll be free of your money, and you can get back to your family. And he thinks about it for a little bit, and he says no, and he takes his money and jumps through another portal.
And it doesn't go on. It ends there.
Yep, it ends there.
Yeah, that's a problem because I'm guessing that these stories we're going to get with more Jump Tribe dolls that would
he had
probably
hundreds of designs, I think, for these things.
Yeah. So unfortunately, so this is how many designs different? Like 4?
There's 4, and then plus a Yabu before he got his wings. Yeah,
that's too bad because I know it's for kids, but it would have been nice to see more of this. I guess. But there are some crazy things in there, like nuns who like Raen and sell umbrellas, and it's like donkey-headed flowers.
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
that is pretty nuts.
I used to write stories like this when I was a kid. I collected finger puppets, those little rubber monsters, and I named them and I came up with stories for them and stuff like that, and they were crazy, kind of like these. And so these Jump Tribe sort of spoke to me, and I was really, when these came out, I was excited about them, and I was really hoping that they would continue. I mean, that was why when Phil and Sarah did one of their interviews with Clive, my question was about this. So I'm kind of sad to see them go. I hope something comes of them, and I hope that Clive still has the rights to these things, and that he can continue to do stuff with them.
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, I'm sure that this is all somewhere in a big box. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention also that Clive Barker now has a Instagram profile.
Oh, does he really?
Well, it's more like Alex's Instagram, but he posts some stuff there as well from Clive, I think. And one of the things that they posted was a page that says vital material for the Book of the Art 3. Do not throw away. So it's like it's one of those boxes that Clive keeps where he stores his ideas for books, for upcoming books.
Of paper and stuff.
Did you get to see that photo?
Yeah, I've seen that before. I think isn't it on Revelations?
It might be. I'm not sure. Yeah, I've seen those dossiers and those binders full of stuff on Revelations before.
But I've never actually.
I know that he keeps his source material, all his sketches, ideas, in these big boxes of that are written, like Book of the Art 2, Book of the Art 3. So it was just fun to watch.
I saw the Book of the Art 3 notebook.
It's like a teaser. Who knows when it's going to get done? But that was fun.
So the next one is Haekel's Tale, and since I know you've seen the movie, we can talk about it kind of in terms of what's different between the story and the movie. Haekel's Tale was written in 2005, so this is the same year as the Jump Tribe stuff. It was written for a book called Dark Delicacies, which is Dark Delicacies 1, since there have been a few more of those since then. Dark Delicacies is a bookstore in California, and I visited there for the premiere, or a signing that had to do with Midnight Meat Train in 2008.
Steve, was it the one where you got to meet Steve
Yes,
Miles?
that was the one. Yeah. So the owner of Dark Delicacies was really cool. I had a broken foot, and I walked like 3 miles to the store from my hotel, and he gave me a ride back.
Oh, that was cool of Del. Yeah, it's Del Howison, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. He's this cool guy. He's got long white hair. It's a really neat store. I wish that I could, visit it more, but obviously it's in Burbank, California. So.
Yeah, I'm on their mailing list. I get some updates sometimes.
Yeah, they do. They'll sell things, and most of the things that they sell you can buy online autographed. So they have lots and lots of signings.
Yeah, I know that Clive has been a very frequent presence at Dark Delicacies.
He really likes the store. In fact, he pushed back the signing by half an hour just so he could have the whole store to himself and look around for a while.
The Dark Delicacies. Why did you bring that up? Because I didn't really get part of what...
Haekel's Tale was written for Dark Delicacies 1, which is a book of original short stories by authors that Del Howison knew.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's where that story originated. And then later it was adapted into a 60-minute movie for the Masters of Horror.
Masters of Horror. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pretty cool episode. Yeah. One of my favorites.
So, in the book, it starts out being narrated by this old man. He's in his 90s, and he's dying. And he says, the thing that I remember the most, the thing that I want to talk about now is something that I never wanted to talk about before, is Haekel's Tale. He says, there was I was, in my youth, me and these other guys, we all would gather up. We were intellectuals, and we would gather and meet in this room at an inn, and we would debate things. And there was one day when we were debating, and someone brought up this Montesquieu, who was a necromancer, and we thought he was just taking advantage of all the women who, wanted to talk to their dead loved ones. And Haekel spoke up and said, if I were you, I wouldn't discount the tales of a necromancer, so, this necromancer Montesquieu, quite so offhandedly. And they said, wait, why? What do you know? And he said, well, you don't want to know what I think. And they said, yes, we do. He said, all right, then I'll tell you my story. So the main narrator isn't Haekel. The main narrator is an old guy that remembers Haekel. Or Haekel. I think they pronounce it Haekel in the movie, so that's probably how you say it.
Yeah, I always thought it was kind of like a German thing, like Haekel or something.
I think it is German. Yeah. So they're German. So Haekel talks about... he says, okay, well, there was one day my father was really sick, and he was dying, and I didn't have enough money for a carriage ride. So I had to walk, and it was a 5-day walk, and I camped out along the road on the way, and there was one day I sat down, and a man came out and said, you can't, you shouldn't camp out here, it wouldn't be wise. And so it goes right into that story, which is a little different from how the movie is.
It is.
He said, and so he says, okay, he goes into he says, well, he says, you can stay at my house if you want, and so he stays at the house, and we kind of go through this. The wife is beautiful, and the wife is sort of pining at the window, and he doesn't know why. They keep.
Should we just at this point insert a spoiler alert?
Yeah, I think
people
so.
Who haven't, yeah. Okay, so spoiler alert.
Yeah, if we're going to talk about what's different between the two. But so then she's pining at the window. The wife gives him a whole bunch of wine, pretty much, I think, so that he'll sleep and that they can do their thing, when he's asleep. Eventually he says, you know what, I'm tired, I'm going to bed, and he hears this sort of mewling sound, and he says, like, you need to feed your baby. Make sure that you fed him a lot, because I don't want him waking up, before you get back. And so that's all the same from the movie. He goes out, or she goes out the door, and he's sort of sitting there crying, and then Haekel gets up and says, hey, what are you crying about? What's going on? And he says, oh, it's better if I don't tell you. And he says, well, where is she going? And then he hears her moaning and groaning and stuff. And he's like, okay, that's it. Something's happened. I got to go find out what it is. So he had hired a necromancer named Skaal, Skaal. Mm-hmm. And so it's not Montesquieu like it was in the movie. Since this is a different time period, It's when Haekel was a little younger. So he had hired a necromancer named Skaal, and basically this woman, she was sort of a nymphomaniac, and he couldn't satisfy her, the husband, so he hired this necromancer to have the dead come to life, a whole bunch of dead, and...
Well, she's a necrophiliac.
Yeah, that too.
She enjoys loving the dead.
And and unlike in the story, it was her old husband or whatever, probably to save on money. But I mean, in the movie, it was her old husband. But in this story, it was just all kinds of dead. There were like disembodied hands and heads and all kinds of things coming up out of the ground. And
was it her old husband? No, I think it was in the episode. It was just they were just like, to use the vernacular, they were just, all the dead people from the graveyard were just coming out of their graves like it was like a Thriller video, and they were like just getting in line. They were just getting in line for her.
Yeah, and I thought that they had made a thing about saying that it was her old husband in the movie, but that wasn't brought up at all in the story. It was all just... But yeah, so anyway, the things that happened after that are pretty similar. The husband comes out and says, oh, please just come home. And at first the dead are trying to push him away and telling him to go away. And he doesn't, and he trips and falls down, and he lands in a bunch of hands and dead things, and they crawl all over him, and then they put a hole in his chest and pull out his eyeball, and he dies.
Yeah. In the movie, I think Haekel is this medical student, right?
In the movie, he's a medical student, and he from the notes of Frankenstein, he thinks that it's, using science that you can bring the dead back to life.
Yeah. And then I think his father is sick or something, and he has to travel back to see his dad before he dies or something. Yeah. And then he there's one particular scene that sticks to mind where he sits down to have his lunch, and he sits down under a tree, and all of a sudden something drips on him, and he looks up, and it's like a hanging person on a tree.
And it drips all over his bread that he was trying to eat.
Yeah, it drips all over him. So, and then he keeps going on his way, and then he finds that necromancer, that
Montesquieu
guy that looks like Montesquieu, looks like Danny DeVito in Batman Returns. Looks like the Penguin, and he's doing some kind of like a sideshow or something, like a spectacle on his little chariot on the side of the road, and he has this dead dog, and he puts the dead dog inside a bag, and he closes it or something, and he concentrates. and then you see the bag starts to move or something.
Box.
So that means the dog is alive.
The dog was in a box, and then he said some. I just watched it last night, and then he says some magic words, and the dog, the box starts shaking and growling, and he opens the door, and it is barking. It's this horrible zombie-looking dog that's barking at him.
Yeah, and. But I don't think when he's doing that for an audience, I don't think that we get to see the dog. We just get to see the box shaking and the bag moving. And I think it's further ahead. You do see that
you see the dog
Haekel
in that part too.
Haekel thinks that it was just a trick, and then he actually does get to see the zombie dog.
He gets to see it at that part also. It sticks. It opens the thing, and it sticks its head out and is barking at him. And later he says, "Yeah, you did that by puppetry."
Yeah. So, and then of course he gets to meet that old guy with long hair and his wife, and that's pretty much the rest, like you said. Like she's like pining away at the window, and then start hearing those noises like, and then it's like she gets agitated. Her husband gets agitated, and Haekel thinks that he might get some special attention from the lady, but then she just leaves the house, and then he chases her, and he finds that he becomes appalled to see that she's in the middle of a graveyard, and the dead are like surrounding her and clasping her and doing their thing with her, and she's enjoying every minute of it. And of course the husband shows up, and he gets mauled by some of the zombies. And in the movie, the thing is that it opens up with a different kind of story. It's not an old guy telling the story. It's this young guy who lost his wife or his fiancée, and he wants to bring her back. So he goes to find the necromancer, which turns out to be the lady that we're talking about. The lady that
it's Elise from the story.
And she tells him the story. She asks him, "Are you really sure that you want to bring your beloved, fiance back, or because they don't come back, it's not the same." And let me tell you a story. And she tells him the story of Haekel. And as she's ending the story, then you start listening to this horrible crying, kind of miauling sound. And
this is all totally different.
And the young guy goes like, "What's that noise?" And then she goes, "Oh, it's my baby." And then she goes and we see that it's a zombie baby.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is the way that Haekel's story ends is different. In the short story, he comes back into the house to get his things so that he can get out of there, and he sees that she's holding the baby, and the baby's got this grimace, and he finds out, the baby is his. When the guy said that his parents were dead, his father was dead, he meant this is a zombie baby. So
it's literally.
So she shows him the zombie baby.
The zombies literally sired her a zombie baby.
So she shows him the zombie baby, and he screams and runs out the door, and that's the end of the story for Haekel. Yeah,
but in the episode, the baby attacks Haekel,
She says, "Do you want to hold him?" And for some inexplicable reason, he's like, "Okay," and it bites his neck. And he
famous last
and he
words.
Dies. Yeah,
the baby kind of reminds me of the baby in Brain Dead.
So I didn't like that. I had read the story already, and I thought that was a cheap way to end it.
Yeah, and then in the movie, this young guy who's talking to the necromancer, who's Elise, and she tells the story, and then he goes like, "Oh, that's awful, that's terrible. Yeah. How can you even tell me something like that?" And then he starts listening to the meowing, crying sound. It's like, what is that horrible, unholy sound? And it's my baby. And then all of a sudden she says something like he takes after his dad. And then all of a sudden we see to the guy's great horror that her undead husband with his eye torn out also appears inside the house, and then also Haekel appears in zombie form, and
her old husband too, and and she said Montesquieu taught her everything he knew. And
Montesquieu is also turned into a zombie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that a while ago, but I still remember that. And then, of course, he sees that, strange trio, and they all start approaching the necromancer, the woman, and she goes, well, let's not be hasty, boys. We got a visitor. And they look at him, and he goes like, to hell with this. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
He just hauls himself out of the house as quickly as possible, just runs away. It's just like, that's not worth, necromanting my fiance if she's going to be a zombie. It's a very funny, and it's a very funny story. The way it's filmed and the ending, it's pretty funny.
And that's kind of the way Mick Garris directs things.
Yeah.
So
just like Quicksilver Highway, it's also pretty tongue-in-cheek. It's also pretty funny.
In both versions,
it's also
he
Mick
shoots
Garris.
the necromancer with a musket when he tells him, you need to put a stop to this, and the necromancer says, I can't. And he's thinking, no, I bet you can, you just won't. So he shoots him with his musket after the husband gets murdered. And the necromancer says,
in the book or in the episode? That happens
in both. And then but it's a different necromancer in the story, But in both, he shoots him with a musket.
In the story, and it's Montesquino in the episode.
Yeah, and then in both, he says the only way to stop it is just when the sun comes up. They'll, and then in the story, the sun came up, and the dead sort of reburied themselves.
Oh, okay. So I was wondering here, what was your opinion about Montesquino? So this was something that he was hired to do probably every night, or was it something that he would just bring someone back and then every night they would come back?
She said in the movie that it's been a year, and I don't think that they said that in the short story.
No.
Or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember.
So do you think Montesquino would raise the dead for every single night, or it was something he could do just once and then they would always come back?
I don't know. That's a good. I mean, he was there.
Yeah.
But he said,
I was just trying to find, trying to speculate here a little bit on the story.
Because person that he resurrected, it would take a year off of his life, and it's like, how many people was that he resurrected? Seems like he's taking a lot of years off of his life.
Yeah, it was like a whole graveyard, a whole little village graveyard, so probably like a dozen people or more. At least in the movie, it's like a dozen zombies over there. So, okay, all right.
So,
yeah, it's a nice episode, but I never read the story, so I'm glad that you pointed out the differences.
But I think that Dark Delicacies book is worth getting. It's got a lot of cool original stories by authors that you may not otherwise get to read. So it's pretty cool.
I think it even has like an original Ray Bradbury story in the book.
Yeah. Let me grab that. I'll find out.
It says here that Del Howison, co-editor of Dark Delicacies, said Haekel's tale is the last entry in Dark Delicacies, and it's a grotesque, erotic horror piece about making love with the dead. This was on Fangoria, 2005. And then it says here...
The Reincarnate by Ray Bradbury. It's the very first story.
It says here, the volume opens with an original Ray Bradbury story. The inclusion of the Reincarnate sets the tone of quality that permeates the collection. However, I would have to narrow my favorite stories down to three. Art of the Game, Bloody Mary Morning, and Haekel's Tale. Clive Barker's best work in years, puts a whole new twist on grave robbing. This was a review from Joe Hartlaub, bookreporter.com. Cool.
Yeah, and I read all of these, but, I don't really remember them that well, except for Haekel's Tale.
The first edition is from Dark Delicacies, edited by Del Howison and Jeff Gelb, Carolyn Graff, New York, USA, 2005.
Yeah. And it's, I think it's only in paperback. There's no hardcover. But I got mine actually autographed by, let's see.
There is a hardcover. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, hardback U.S. first edition. Yeah, there was a hardback U.S. first edition.
Well, mine is signed by Clive Barker, Del Howison, Steve Niles, Whitley Strieber, F. Paul Wilson, Lisa Morton, R. Pickman, and Brian Lumley. Chelsea Quinn Yarborough and R. Matheson. So they when I bought this at their store, they said, you can take it home with you now, or you can let us get it autographed for you by all these other people, and then we'll mail it to you.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing of them to suggest that. There was actually a comment by Roger Corman on the episode Haekel's Tale, because Roger Corman, I think he did some intros, and one of them was like, from Roger Corman, says, Clive Barker's provocative short story suggests an opportunity to go one step further than Mary Shelley's nightmare masterpiece, Frankenstein, in suggesting how closely the erotic drive and the obsession with death are linked. So that's about Haekel's Tale. Cool. At first they thought that it wasn't going to be filmable, the story, but then you can find more information about this on clivebarker.info/haekeltv.html.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rare story. It's interesting that they chose that one to do Masters of Horror on. I mean, you would expect it to be some kind of a Books of Blood story.
Mick Garris did the screenplay adaptation. So.
Yeah. Yep. So then our next one is They're Mad They Are, 2012. This is that DeviantArt project Odyssey 2 that we've talked about before. So I had expected to talk more about this, but it's actually not finished. I thought it would be finished by now because the deadline was December 31st to get the last chapter in. But they've not posted chapter 8, so we don't really know how it ends.
I guess they're still waiting for Clive Barker's feedback on it.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Well, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it's got to be something connected to that because Clive Barker has to personally choose the winning entry, right?
Is that how it works? So I think so. So that's probably where it's at. I liked the way that this story opened, and I thought the first couple of chapters were pretty good. But the more I read it, the less that I liked it. I mean, there was one part. It's like the guy got thrown up on the bus or the train or whatever it was, and he came home to his apartment, and it grew into this like rainbow iridescent thing in his skin on his leg, and then he in later chapters there's this woman called Maya that comes and she wants to separate it from him because it's like some kind of a sister to her, and she hacks him to pieces, so he's dead. And then the next person who did the next chapter is like, oh, no, I like Paul. So then he has Maya do a spell that puts all of his body parts back together so he's alive again. And it just, it just reminded me of like what, when I was a kid, I would, really little kid, I would tell stories like that. And then he died, but then he was back to life again.
Or whenever you guys did some kind of like, with your friends, you did something like, there was once a person, and then someone says, who was like riding on a boat, and then someone says, a boat in the middle of, a prairie. And then you go like, well, you can't do that. It's like, but I'm looking at it. I like the artwork. At least I like the artwork. I haven't read the story like you did, but so far the artwork is nice. I'm looking at just the images. I haven't read it yet because I'm waiting for it to be over. The reason why it's not over yet, it's because they haven't closed the deadline for Chapter 8 artwork, which is actually January 14th. So that the Chapter 8 artwork submission date is still open. Yeah. Maybe that's why they haven't locked down the Chapter 8
that
thing.
Makes sense. Yeah. So I thought the more I read it, the worse it got, and it was just disappointing for me. But I don't know. Maybe I think Chapter 8 is twice as many words, so maybe they can pull it together and I think the story's kind of a mess right now.
I'm just reading some of it, and for example, some of the things I don't like them very much. Especially, for example, when there was this Chapter 1, which is talking about. It's a whole paragraph just talking about a puke stain, and it kind of grosses me out a little bit. It's like, the stain was small, no larger than a coin. Still, it was nauseating. And says, Resisting the urge to gag, he grazed his fingers over the stain. It was purely liquid and slick, like dish soap, but the sickly brown could only be vomit. It's like, oh my God, I'm getting queasy just reading this. But I don't want to be mean, but it's like, it's just a puke stain. Don't start describing the dankiness or the slickness of it or the smell.
Yeah, and then later on, there was one of the chapters. The person who wrote it just kept using the word progeny over and over and over. My progeny. The progeny said this. This is what the progeny thought, and that's my progeny. And I was like, I just was getting so irritated reading that word over and over again. It's like, get a thesaurus. Progeny just means like a child or an offspring.
Yeah, I understand sometimes they want to do that kind of thing that Clive used to do, which is like describe someone with a word other than his name and then just roll with it. But you can't just do that all the time. It just becomes repetitive. I like this artwork that shows up on Chapter 7 called A Man Reborn. It kind of reminds me of the Weave World 25th Anniversary Edition art from Richard Kirk. It's the Tal Shen, the creature apparently that appears. It's by this deviant art guy called Trav the Mad, and it's pretty cool. Have you seen that one on Chapter 7?
Maybe if I did, I was just reading the story. I wasn't paying attention.
Do you have an Odyssey project open?
I always look for it through the link from Revelation, so I'm doing that right now. Okay,
because I can send it to you. I'm looking at it too, and I really enjoy this piece of artwork. It's from Chapter 7. It's a Tal Shen. Let me just link you up here.
Okay, let's see. Chapter 7.
And yeah, you can see it's really, really cool looking. But I'm just going to read the story when it's completely done, and then
Okay. Chapters.
We can probably address this also in the year in review episode.
Yeah, and maybe it'll be finished by then. There's Chapter 3. That's kind of cool looking. Chapter 4. I'm looking at the art now. This is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. You got these titles: Techno-Colored Psychosis, Dreams of the Deep, A Shower and a Change, The Host with the Most. Wasn't that like a song? So yeah, it's apparently Odyssey 2 prompt for Chapter 8 says the final battle to block Tal Shen's launch of the takeover of Earth.
Yeah.
So apparently it's a monster that was born, or should I say progenited from
my progeny.
From Paul's puke stain.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that by the time we do the next episode, this will be over. Because 14 of January for final submission of the artwork for the last part. That means it's tomorrow at the time of this recording. And hopefully, in another 2 weeks, everything will be completed. Yeah. And then we can download all of this stuff and read it calmly.
Yeah. When Clive Barker starts,
it's a collaborative.
It really, it's not probably not going to get, better as it goes along.
It's a collaboration. Yeah. And a collaboration is also always a mishmash of different kinds of talent, different kinds of directions people want to take the story. Some people want to take the story like this guy's going to die. Then the next one comes and says, well, actually it was all a dream, or he got put back together. He got better. And it's like, of course, it becomes a little, uneven.
Yeah.
But hey, at least, it's fun to say if you're someone out there who actually had something published, we're not trying to be mean about it. We're just saying, hey, it's pretty cool that you are part of a story with Clive Barker.
Yeah, I mean, and I tried to write one, and I only wrote half the number of words, and I, put it off, and then the deadline was gone, and it's, so I didn't take the time to, to complete one and submit it. So, kudos. If you got one in, I think that's great.
I'm just saying that due to the nature of it being collaborative work, it's always going to be a little uneven because you can only speak for your own contribution. You never know what other people are going to do, and you never know if the next person is going to be as talented as you or better or.
But you can find this on DeviantArt. It's called the Odyssey 2 project. And the story is called "They're Mad They Are."
Yeah. So that's our final story for the episode.
Yep.
Which we will probably get back to on the next episode when it's all completely done.
Yep.
It's going to be cool. We're going to discuss this because I don't want to spoil it too much because I haven't read it through. So, don't tell me anything about it.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a fun 2012, and it's very, very cool that we started off with a 2011 year in review, and now we're going to do a 2012 year in review. Yeah. And it's been great being part of the podcast.
Yeah, and our year in review is going to be our next episode. We're hoping to line up some cool guests for that. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned. And keep occupying Midian because that was amazing. That what you guys did has been amazing so far. And I'm really hoping that we can get more about the restoration and more news about where the movie is going because we've had like Crystal said, we had like 20 screenings so far. There's going to be another screening in England, and there's like a few different versions that have been put together so far, the Cabal cut, and I don't know when they're going to do the proposed tape baking thing to get more quality out of VHS. But we're hoping that Russell will keep us informed as usual.
Yep.
Okay?
All right. And we'll Occupy Midian's going to be a big part of our next episode, too.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. It's been great. And I'll meet you guys again next episode. Bye-bye.
All right, this was episode 29 of the Clive Barker podcast, Rare Stories Part 3, with Jose Leitao, and I'm Ryan Danhauser. You can find us on the web at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave us feedback there, and if we are on iTunes, so please leave us a review. On Facebook, we have a like page on Facebook where you can find us on the Occupy Midian group. On Twitter, we're at BarkerCast or at Occupy Midian, and the forum is www.timewinds.com/Clive/forum. The official website for Occupy Midian is www.occupymidian.com, and you can see more from Crystal Raen at www.bringbacknightbreed.blogspot.com.
You heard the story of Ernst Haekel. If I tell you my story and you still wish your beloved Samantha brought back from the dead, then I will gladly grant you your wish.
God may resurrect, man may not.
You are wrong, sir.
This girl shall live again.
I failed. The key to life after death is still beyond my reach.
The dead can live again. Who would like to have their late bereaved loved one back in their arms again?
You actually paid this Montesquino to bring back your wife's first husband from the dead.
I fear it is the only way she is satisfied. Make it stop! Die, damn you! It is already dead, Haekel. You cannot kill it again. She still loves him. No other man could ever fulfill her.
What is she?
A woman in love with a dead man.